Thanks for joining us on Arirang News. I'm Kim Dami in Seoul. South Korea's job additions bounced back to over 100,000 for the first time in 3 months in July. But jobs in the construction sector saw the deepest drop in 11 years because of a slowdown in the field. Ukraine now claims to have taken control of over 70 villages in Russia's Kursk region. Russia insists it's pushing the Ukrainian military out of its territory. The entire nation is under sizzling summer heat, with Seoul having gone through 24 straight tropical nights. That's the second longest ever the capital city has experienced, after a record 26 nights in 2018. South Korea's labor market rebounded in July, seeing more than 100,000 more people in employment than in the same month the previous year. But employment in the construction and manufacturing sectors tumbled. Our Lee Soo-jin explains.
South Korea saw the on-year growth in jobs increase by more than 100,000 for the first time in 3 months in July. Data released by Statistics Korea on Wednesday shows that there were 28.8 million people in employment last month, up 172,000 from the previous year. This comes after the on-year job growth was below 100,000 for both May and June. The rate of employment for people aged 50 and above rose by 0.1 percentage points on year to 63.3%, which is the highest figure for any month of July on record. And July's unemployment rate stood at 2.5%, 0.2 percentage points lower compared to the same month last year. But the rise in the job market was mainly driven by those aged 60 and above, with 278,000 more people in that age group in jobs in July compared to last year. On the other hand, for those between 15 and 29 years old, employment fell by 149,000 on year. And despite the overall growth in terms of job sectors, employment figures in the construction sector fell by a whopping 81,000. This marks the largest on-year drop for the month of July since 2013.
There has been a downward trend for about 3 months, and the decline has widened. The extreme heat and heavy rain, as well as a greater decline in specialized construction contracts, have all contributed to the overall decline in the construction sector.
And employment in the manufacturing sector, which has been seeing an upward trend, also fell by 11,000 in July, with the largest drop seen in those aged 40 and below. During a job task force meeting on Wednesday, the first vice finance minister acknowledged that while overall employment figures were positive, pan-governmental efforts are needed to address the sluggish employment figures in sectors such as construction, as well as among young people. He announced that measures including livelihood assistance and job training will be strengthened, and that pilot programs for youth employment that include connecting college students to alumni will be carried out starting this month. Lee Soo-jin, Arirang News.
As South Korea continues to suffer from one of its longest heat waves, Seoul experienced yet another abnormally hot nighttime last night. The capital city has now seen tropical nights for the 24 days in a row, marking the second longest streak since records began in 1907. A tropical night is when temperatures stay at a minimum of 25 degrees Celsius between 6 p.m. and 9 a.m. The longest streak was the 26th tropical nights in a row back in 2018, when South Korea went through one of its worst heat waves. But because the current heat wave is expected to persist for a while, this record is likely to be broken this year. South Korea is also seeing record-high electricity demand due to the ongoing heat wave. The sizzling summer heat has also led to a spike in heat-related illnesses and caused significant damage to the livestock and fisheries sector. Our Ian has this report.
South Korea's electricity demand hit a record high on Monday, with more people switching on their air conditioning units due to the intense summer heat. Data from the Korea Power Exchange on Tuesday reveals that peak power demand reached around 102.3 gigawatts between 2 to 3 p.m. on Monday, surpassing the previous record of 100.5 gigawatts set last August. The total number of heat-related illnesses this year, from May 20th to August 11th, has reached almost 2,300. This surpasses last year's total for the same period of around 2,100 cases. The total number of heat-related deaths reported this year stands at 21. The heat wave has also significantly affected livestock and fisheries. Between June 11th and August 12th, over 700,000 animals have died due to extreme temperatures. In the fisheries sector, nearly 900,000 fish have perished. In the coming days, most regions nationwide are expected to experience extreme heat, with field-like temperatures of around 35 degrees Celsius. Meanwhile, experts say the country's electricity consumption is likely to increase, even more so due to increased demand in the semiconductor industry, as well as a greater need for air conditioning and EV charging. Lee In-hee, Arirang News.
South Korea's first homegrown military reconnaissance satellite has been deemed fit for service. According to the Defense Acquisition Program Administration on Wednesday, the Defense Ministry approved a combat suitability for the satellite the day before. The reconnaissance satellite was launched in December last year. It's the first of the 5 spy satellites South Korea plans to launch by 2025 to provide surveillance on North Korea. The satellite can capture detailed images of the Earth's surface at any time of the day and will serve as a key asset of the country's kill chain preemptive strike system. Kyiv says it captured 74 villages in the Kursk region and vowed to stop its offensives in mainland Russia if Moscow agrees to a fair peace deal. However, Russia shot back, saying it's in the process of pushing back the Ukrainian military. Lee Seung-ja has more.
Ukraine continued to push ahead with its offensive in Russia's Kursk region for the 8th day on Tuesday. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky said that his military was able to capture 74 villages in the region, while Kyiv's top commander said that its forces were able to advance 3 kilometers in 1 day, taking control of an additional 40 square kilometers of Russian territory. Ukraine says it has no intention of occupying Russian territory, adding that it would stop its offensives in mainland Russia if Moscow agrees to a fair peace deal. However, Moscow is looking to repel the Ukrainian forces, saying it's already in the process of doing so. According to the Russian Defense Ministry, Ukraine has already lost up to 420 troops in the past 24 hours, and over 2,000 soldiers have been killed since the incursions began on August 6th. While the Ukrainian Foreign Ministry called on Russia to agree to restore peace in the 2.5-year-long war, Russian President Vladimir Putin a day earlier said no negotiations could happen with those that attack civilians and civilian infrastructure, slamming the 8-day-long incursion. Meanwhile, continued fighting in the Kursk region is also raising major concerns over threats it can pose to energy infrastructures in the region. Fighting took place in a region where a pipeline carrying Russian natural gas to Europe via Ukraine is located, while missile fragments were found near the Kursk nuclear power plant. Russian nuclear operators say that the power plant is currently functioning normally, and radiation levels at the plant and the surrounding area are stable. Lee Seung-ja, Arirang News.
Amid fears of a wider war in the Middle East, U.S. President Joe Biden has hinted that Iran could possibly skip a retaliatory strike on Israel if a ceasefire deal in Gaza is reached. In the meantime, Hamas says it launched another strike on Israel's central city. Pinji reports.
Hamas has said it fired 2 rockets targeting Israel's Tel Aviv, but the Israeli military said one fell in the sea off the central city, while the other did not cross into the country's territory. Local media outlets said explosions were heard in the city on Tuesday local time, but no casualties were reported. Amid escalating tensions in the region, U.S. President Joe Biden has said Iran could hold off on a retaliatory strike on Israel if a ceasefire deal between Hamas and Israel is reached.
We'll see what Iran does and we'll see what happens if there's any attack. But I'm not giving up.
His remarks come after Iran vowed a severe response against Israel over the assassination of Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh, who was killed in Tehran after attending the Iranian president's inauguration. The U.S. ambassador to the United Nations also called on members of the Security Council to help finalize and implement a ceasefire agreement for Gaza.
The United States' overall goal remains to turn the temperature down in the region, deter and defend against any future attacks and avoid regional conflict. That starts with finalizing a deal for an immediate ceasefire with hostage release in Gaza.
While a ceasefire deal still remains uncertain, the Palestinian leader has reportedly said Iran could soon decide whether or not to retaliate against Israel. Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas, who's currently visiting Moscow, told Russia's TASS news agency on Tuesday local time that the decision could be made in the next few days, or even the next few hours. While adding that Palestinians are against war, he noted the U.S. is actively involved in ceasefire negotiations, although it's hard to foresee what will happen. 배은지, Arirang News.
Google has unveiled its latest lineup of new Pixel smartphones equipped with a deeper incorporation of its AI technology. But the much-anticipated AI voice assistant Gemini Live is among the features as Google races ahead of Apple and the release of the new iPhone next month. Yoon-jin reports.
On Tuesday, at a product launch event at Alphabet's Bayview campus in California, Google unveiled new artificial intelligence features that are coming to Android devices. Its AI voice assistant Gemini Live has been completely rebuilt to provide a better assistant experience for users. With 10 new voices to choose from that serve to be more natural, conversational, and intuitive, Gemini can follow the user's train of thought and understand user intent. Google's Senior Vice President of Devices and Services, Rick Osterloh, said that Google was now bringing to reality the promise of AI.
The new Gemini assistant can go beyond understanding your words to understanding your intent, so you can communicate more naturally. It can synthesize large amounts of information in seconds and tackle complex tasks. It can draft messages for you, brainstorm with you, and give you ideas on how you can improve your work.
An analyst from global market intelligence firm, the International Data Corporation, said that Google nailed the two things that consumers are looking for AI to do, which is organization and content creation. The AI-powered technology will be available on its latest Pixel 9 series smartphones, which start at $799 US, $100 more than the Pixel 8. Holding less than 1% market share in global smartphone shipments, Google doesn't make a lot of money from its hardware business. But its latest feature could help drive revenue through its Gemini AI subscription program, which Android users can access for a monthly fee of $19.99. While Google normally announces its new lineup in the fall, pundits say the tech giant released its latest Pixel 9 lineup earlier than expected, with Apple's iPhone 16 scheduled for release next month. Google also announced new versions of its smartwatch, the Pixel Watch 3, and Pixel Buds Pro 2 wireless earbuds on Tuesday. Yoon-jin, Arirang News.
Korean actor Cha In-pyo's novel addressing the issue of comfort women has been globally received, with the prestigious Oxford University having selected it as a reading material. Cha recently talked to Arirang TV's program The Globalist about his novel, and here is a sneak peek of it.
An actor and a writer whose writing is to be studied at one of most prestigious universities in the world. That is Cha In-pyo, whose novel Once We Look at the Same Star was selected as reading material for Korean studies classes from next semester at Oxford University. He was even invited as a guest speaker at the university's inaugural Korean Literature Festival on June 28th. His inspiration to address the issue of comfort women came when he saw on TV a woman known as Grandma Hoon coming back home from Cambodia in 1997. She was just 16 years old when taken from her hometown by the Japanese army and forced into sexual slavery, known euphemistically as comfort woman. Korea was liberated from Japanese colonial rule in 1945, but many comfort women, including Grandma Hoon, could not come back home out of shame. She lived half a century in the Cambodian jungle until she came across a Korean traveler to whom she expressed her wish to go back home. Though she lost her language, her identity, she could sing the Korean folk song Arirang, and that moved his heart.
My heart was aching because of the mixed feeling of, I would say, sadness anger, and disappointment, humiliation. When I thought of these comfort women, this word, what if, kept coming to my mind. What if? What if these women were not taken away, had not been taken away, and somehow could have stayed home? These what ifs were my questions, so I started writing my novel.
Filled with resentment, he started writing a novel. But such intense, negative emotion could not sustain him, and when his laptop broke, he just gave up. 6 years later, he started writing again, motivated not by political sentiment, but to let his children know the painful history of comfort women. He adds that when we fully empathize with the pain of one era, the next generation will not have to suffer the same pain.
Whether you are Korean or Japanese or from any other country in the world, if we gather together and fully empathize the pain of comfort women together, then I think the genuine apology, not the forced one, will emerge from there, as well as the true reconciliation for the next generation.
The full episode of Cha In-pyo's in-depth story will be on air on The Globalists on Wednesday at 4:50 p.m. Korea time. 김보경, 아리랑 뉴스.
Let's take a look at the latest news in the world now. We begin today in India, where some 300,000 resident doctors and 8,000 physicians are on strike as of Tuesday, demanding justice for a female trainee doctor who was raped and murdered at a government-run hospital in Kolkata. Thousands of doctors, nurses and medics marched in Kolkata and the surrounding West Bengal state before the protests spread to western Maharashtra state and India's capital, New Delhi, where junior doctors held banners that read "Doctors are not punching bags." West Bengal's Health Secretary, Narayan Swarup Nigam, appealed to the protesting doctors, asking them to return to work as medical services were halted by the demonstrations. The protests come after a 31-year-old female trainee doctor was found dead on Friday morning in a seminar room of the R.G. Carr Medical College, where an autopsy showed that she was sexually assaulted and murdered the night before. The West Bengal State Minister Mamata Banerjee said on Monday that the principal of the college has resigned, while a high court in Kolkata ordered the criminal investigation to be handed over to India's Central Bureau of Investigation, a federal agency. Authorities have said that a police volunteer was arrested in connection with the crime. A study released on Monday says an immense reservoir of liquid water may exist on planet Mars, under the rocky outer crust of the planet. The findings come after analysis of data from NASA's Mars InSight lander showed the reservoir located some 11 to 20 kilometers below the Martian surface within fractured igneous rocks, indicating that it is large enough to hold enough water to fill an ocean the size of the planet's surface. The InSight lander, which has been on Mars since 2018, measured seismic data from vibrations over 4 years, which showed the presence of liquid underground. While previous probes found frozen water at the Martian poles and evidence of water vapor in the atmosphere, this is the first time liquid water has been found on the planet. A former member of Unit 731, the Japanese Army's biological weapons unit, which conducted horrific experiments on humans during the Second World War, arrived in Harbin City in northeast China on Monday to testify and expose the unit's crimes and apologize to the victims. Hideo Shimizu was among the last batch of the Unit 731 Youth Corps when he was sent by Japan to Harbin. He spent over 4 months witnessing human dissections, experiments, and cultivation and testing of pathogens on living human samples. Shimizu, who was conscripted into the army in March 1945, was only 14 years old when he was stationed in China before fleeing with the retreating Japanese military in August 1945. Now 94 years old, he revealed his identity as a former Unit 731 member in 2016 and began his campaign of public appearances and interviews to expose its atrocities. Unit 731, Japan's secret chemical and biological warfare research base during the Second World War, performed human experiments on at least 3,000 people. Almost 5 years after over 100 million euros worth of jewelry was stolen from the Green Vault Museum in Dresden, Germany, the collection can once again be seen by the public after police recovered most of the stolen jewels. In November 2019, thieves stole pieces from the Green Vault Museum, including over 4,300 diamonds with an estimated value of over $124 million. While the German police have said most of the stolen items have been returned, pieces including an epaulette on which a precious stone known as the Dresden White Diamond was mounted remain missing. An official from Dresden State Museums said that the jewelry pieces will be back on display in their original spots this week. Kim Seong, Arirang News.
Good afternoon. What a searing day we had yesterday under blazing sunshine. Not surprisingly, Seoul had its hottest afternoon temperatures of the season at 36.4 degrees Celsius yesterday. Today should be as hot as yesterday. It looks as though the western parts of Korea are hotter than the rest, and the warming trend continues on this Maibok, which is considered to be the last day of searing summer heat. Then another round of passing rain is in the forecast for mostly western regions. Rain could pound down once it starts to rain. Meanwhile, Jeju Island will see heavy rainfall through Friday. Seoul woke up to the second longest run of consecutive tropical nights on record, 24 nights in a row. And there is a chance we could set a new record this week. Meanwhile, Seoul and Daejeon should get up to 35 degrees Celsius this afternoon, and skies will remain sunny until that rain falls. Tomorrow looks to be a repeat of today's forecast, and unbearable heat looks to continue for another week or so. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
That's all we have at this hour. Arirang News will be back at 2 p.m. Korea time. Thanks for watching.